And gentlemen, welcome to the Ray Tampa podcast. Our podcast offers bold commentary on various subject matters with a laser-like focus on the truth. My name is Ray Tampa. I'm the host of the Ray Tampa podcast. We have in our studio Mr. Russell Cato, a retired educator with more than 42 years of experience working in the Pinellas County schools, and Mr. Jamie Wilson III, a healthcare provider with more than 30 years of experience working as a physical therapist. My co-host, my dynamic co-host. We're very pleased. We are very pleased to have as our guests two of the candidates hoping to replace the present mayor of St. Petersburg, Maria Scruggs and Jim Large. Maria has over 40 years of experience working in the public sector. She is presently an administrator with the Orange County Corrections Department and a former NAACP president here in St. Petersburg. Jim is a recently retired chief of the St. Petersburg Fire and Rescue Department with more than 50 years of experience to his credit. Maria and Jim, welcome to the Ray Tampa podcast.
Thank you, Ray, for having us this afternoon.
By all means.
Yes, thank you, Ray.
On Thursday, May 7th, 2026, the Patch News magazine published an article written by Tiffany Rizzano. The title of the article, St. Pete City Council candidates weigh in on historic gas plant proposals. Maria and Jim are here as two of the candidates who responded to the Patches questionnaire, and they're going to share with us their thoughts about the proposals and other information. We're certainly looking forward to the things they're going to say to us. We were asked that the two candidates give us a verbatim response to the questionnaire. They will be given a limit of 5 minutes each to do so. Maria, happy Mother's Day.
Thank you, my dear.
And you go first.
All right. Well, what I'll do is just kind of summarize the 4 questions that we were asked, because what the paper did was post an unedited version. So the first question was, what were the general impressions of the proposals that were presented at the Coliseum? And in my response, I said, attending the presentation in person provided a valuable perspective for the redevelopment proposals for the district. 2 key points became especially clear. First, the current administration's decision to grant a single developer ownership over the largest available piece of land, the historic gas plant, raised significant concerns about the concentration of control of one developer. Second, upon hearing of all the 4 proposals, it was evident that each had the potential to contribute positively to the historic gas plant. The design concepts presented more reflective of what developers, however, wanted versus what the people wanted. This wasn't something that they got from the people, but based on what they believe. Number 2, the preferred proposal for the district. One of the things that was clear to me, as I have said from day one, is that I do not feel that we should be selecting any developer. However, if the mayor is going to move forward, which he has made it clear in some forms that he is, that the Foundation Vision Partners I felt was the most appropriate. And here's why. Number one, their process was just the ownership would be retained with the city, number one. Number two, if their proposal also gave the opportunity for all of the proposals, because all of them had very good elements to it. I really enjoyed those particular presentations. And three, while some of the others will cover the horizontal infrastructure, their proposal was simply that. They would be responsible for all of the horizontal infrastructure, meaning your roads and your parks. And then they would have the other developers would have the opportunity for all your other vertical structures, your buildings, your museums, if that's what we're gonna have, your retail. That would and I think that was very much receptive of the people. I don't know if you were there, Jim.
Yes, it was.
But people really seemed to grab a hold to the concept that you did not have an all or nothing kind of approach. So that was definitely the preferred. The third question, what does the district need most? And one of the things that I say and will consistently say is planning. To take on a project of this magnitude without and relevant planning, given that the social, political, and economic climate has changed in this is a very different St. Petersburg. Yeah. And to move forward on a project like this without this planning is I believe, suicidal. And so that I contend is what the district needs most of all.
Agreed.
Recommendation for addressing losses. I recommend that the St. Petersburg Council pass a resolution to define the economic losses tied to the displacement of residents from the historic gas plant area. Such a resolution should call for the establishment of an independent task force comprising various community stakeholders to oversee the process. This task force will be responsible for defining the scope and nature of losses. The reason that I'm proposing this, you keep hearing the promise. And what keeps being presented to the community is museum. Black folks ain't said nothing about no museum back then. While that is something that came up as a result of Hope 6, when I was the former director for the supportive side of Hope 6, that was not anything recent. So one of the things that I believe is that we have to have a process to create an evaluation of what was the value of the businesses, the homes and properties that were taken back then, and then what is the appreciation value now? And based on that figure, then the city council passing a resolution saying that whatever development, whatever, and I don't even want to call it reparations, because that's not what it is. Whatever benefit to the community that was displaced, that we're now dealing with a more realistic number once we go through that process is why.
Hey, great. Right on time. I'll get ready to put up a finger. Excellent. And I want to hold for a second. Don, how about unplugging that? The noise interfering with the program. Thanks. Jim.
Yep. So just about could say what Maria said, because we're very similar in a lot of those what we took away from that. So the first thing that I noticed was, why was the housing authority proposal even there? That should, I said it's a no-brainer. We need that. That's a parcel. Let's just move forward. I didn't consider that really redevelopment per se proposal. So after that, and I answered independent of the questions, but based on the questions. So I won't read the questions again because I don't have them on here. But the other three proposals I thought all possessed some strengths, just like you were saying earlier. However, I found Foundation Vision to be the proposal that was most beneficial. And why was that? To the city as a whole, retaining ownership and parceling out that for development has the greatest physical value. to the city. We can't ignore that need, with all the costs that you think about. That $600 million bond that's being proposed. There's a possibility here that we don't have to go into further debt if we do these things right. And I said, again, each one has some benefits. I mentioned combining some of the flair of the Berg bid. It was very flashy, but there's some benefit to having a little bit of architectural flair, if you will, in a track like this. But let's not get carried away with it, But and then the economic vision within the ARC. I really like the part of helping startups and helping small businesses, having that lab, as they called it, an incubator for businesses. That part is appealing because we need that. And then, my feeling is we have to balance the history of that area with the needs of the city. And the greatest need today, in my opinion, which we've lost, is public trust. Public trust in city administration to do the right thing for the city, for the community, for everybody involved. And it needs to be supported by some real tangible benefits, not something that's, well, we think it's going to do this or we think it's going to do that. No, we need real tangible benefits, and what that, for the people of St. Pete, and what that really boils back down to. And I just put it in parents, jobs, affordability, opportunity. But my final thought on it, as I said, was the Rays don't have a deal yet. I think all of this is a little bit premature because the Rays were not mentioned at all in any of these presentations. So if the Rays have to continue to play there, how long? We don't know. People say a year or two. They don't know. 2.3 billion in Tampa. It's a long way from a done deal. So I think the city still has some leverage. Is the stadium still going to be there 10 years from now? We don't know. That's why I agree. There has to be some work done, some planning, some, almost like a plan B. Okay, stadium stays there. How are you going to phase all this in? Or are we going to phase it in? Does it make sense to build around the stadium? There's a lot of questions that are unanswered with the Rays deal. And I ended it with saying I would reevaluate the gas plant proposal as the mayor. And that includes keeping the Rays in St. Pete if the deal falls through.
Okay.
And that was my
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. We've heard from two of the mayoral candidates in terms of what they heard and some of the thoughts they have on what they heard. Do either one of you want to ask a question at this point?
Well, I could just speak on what I agree with. I like a lot of the stuff that Maria said, and I like a lot of stuff what you said. As far as I do agree with the parceling out of the land because it is beneficial. You could control the costs, more developmental flexibility. You increase the buyer pool, and then the smaller parcels of land, you can still get more for them because the cost control. So that's good. And that was one of the issues because at one point we were feeling like they were just giving the land away. And that was a big issue, like prime real estate being given away. So I like that. So, yeah, I mean, y'all mix it up together and come up with something, but it sounds pretty good. Yeah.
Russ?
Well, I like what Jim said right away. I think the thing that has been left out of this whole thing is public trust. That's the biggest. This is 2026. This thing began in 1970. That's 50-some years.
Yeah.
Nothing has been done. Right now, I was talking to Ray one time. Even in the last 4 or 5 years, where's the grocery store? So these are the kind of things that I'm looking at. Now, I know there are two topics here we got to look at. You've got to look at the gas plant area, and you've got to look at the truck. My thing is, I don't want to get the short end of the stick. That's what scared me. So I'm going to listen to all of you, because everything that I read, I put it called a honey proposal. Everybody said the right thing. But what is going to be the real action? Oh, I go back to what you said, and I'm just going to fall back on we need public trust. That's right.
The thing is, how will we hold your feet to the fire because it's about the community, and the mostly affected by promises not kept is South Side, St. Pete.
Yeah.
You know, the lower income community. So how will we be able to hold your feet to the fire? All this, you know, a lot of nice things said, but making it happen, you know, that's the biggest concern because, you know, we saw the history and watched the film of what happened with the gas plant before and the building of the dome, and it was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
One of the things that I have, one of the benefits of being a part of all of these public processes since I've been back in St. Pete since 1987, if you see the same, kicking the can down the road
Right.
and the same shuffle.
right.
And one of the reasons that I get away from the general terms of jobs, because we have not gone through a process to quantify what kind of job and how much will the jobs pay.
Hey,
And you can't do that until you assess what is it that we have, what is the actual cost of living to live in St. Petersburg.
yes.
Jim and I have children the same age, and we talk about them as young adults coming back here with all that education and can't afford to buy
Exactly.
in St. Petersburg.
Exactly.
You know, or, you know, what is for me, what is the right industry that my daughter has to transition into to be able to afford? She moved back here from LA and she said, Mama, I don't see the difference.
And it's not.
As a
It's not.
her utilities in LA were cheaper than my utilities in St. Petersburg. And
Yeah.
so I think because we're not having those discussions, we're having spin, spin, spin. It feels as though the city of St. Petersburg has a big for sale sign to the highest bidder.
To developers, to the highest bidder.
Those are developers,
Mhm.
whether they're from St.
Yep.
Pete or
Or
not.
not.
If they got millions and billions behind their name. And one of the conversations that I continue to have with our younger reporters, y'all got to move this conversation outside of the money.
Right.
The fact that Charlie Chris was able to sit on the phone and raise them 1.5 million, when you've been in that many positions, good for you. But what in the world will that have on a city that has changed drastically since he's lived here, since he's not ever been in any kind of position to manage the quality of life in St. Petersburg? What would that bring? And great friend of mine, I'm sure he and Jim are cool. But the idea is that we've got to start when we talk about public trust. I just talked about this at the last podcast. What comes along with public trust is public accountability.
Mhm.
You got to be
Transparency.
willing to put your stuff out there. And if you fail, you got to own it.
Right.
Because as public administrators, we're not perfect. I'm sure
Right,
Jim
right.
has made some decisions in his career. I've made some decisions that were always not the best decisions. But you learn from and you keep it moving. You don't deny that you have a problem. You have a problem when a CEO of a city gives away $250,000 of the taxpayers' money. That's a problem.
That's a problem.
It's illegal in the state of Florida. You got to be willing to call it and own that. And it speaks to Russ's point and Jim's point about the public trust.
Right.
People don't mind you making a mistake. They just want you to own it.
Good point.
So,
Jim?
yeah, and I agree with that. So when we talk about public trust, I bring that up in this because as a fire chief for 18 years, that was number one. That's what every new recruit heard from me. The most valuable asset as a leader of a department in the city, and it applies to police chief, any department chief, and most definitely applies to the mayor of the city,
Mhm.
is public trust. If you don't have that, if you're working without transparency, you lose that public trust. And just like that, if someone doesn't blow the whistle on those bonuses, we may never know about it. And that's just sad.
Mhm.
And the other part, what Maria said about you have to stand up and do the right thing. And if it fails, I always say that leadership takes courage.
Mhm.
And people say do the right thing when nobody's looking. It takes courage to do the right thing when everybody's looking.
Yeah.
And that's what you do. And if it fails, at least people know you
You
tried
tried.
to do the right thing. And that's what we have to do. We have to get back to earning the public trust by trying to do the right thing, because we have a council form of government, so they control a lot. And so, I used to say the buck stops here as fire chief. And the other day I was doing a meeting with a group of people, and I said, as a mayor, wait a minute, the buck doesn't stop here. It stops with the city council. Just the nature of the beast. They control the purse. That's a little bit frustrating, but the whole thing is, as a mayor, you stand up and you say to council, this is what we need to do. This is why we need to do it. And if they don't support it, then it again, you own that you tried and you tried to do the right thing.
Speaking to that point,
Mhm.
City Council voted 6-2, asking the mayor to pause the process of picking a developer
Mhm.
until certain things happen. 6-2.
Mhm.
Obviously, the mayor ignored it, said, I'm moving forward.
Yeah.
How would you have responded? Either of you or both of you can respond to this. How would you have responded as mayor with a 62 vote asking you to hold off on that?
You okay if because I have a definite thought. It's normally ladies first, First of all, we wouldn't have needed a vote because I wouldn't have been pushing this thing through.
Excellent.
Right.
So it needed a lot more. There's so many questions that aren't answered about this.
Excellent.
I mean, I could sit here and do a long list of the questions, but I'm just saying we wouldn't have got to that. But when I talk about the council having a lot of power, thank goodness they voted 6-2. Now, what's going to happen? Because I was at the State of the City. Were you at State?
Yeah.
You heard
Clearly.
I'm pushing this through. And he addressed the council right in the front row. I know how you feel. I'm pushing this through. So it becomes more of a personal agenda versus what's the best thing for the city. You can't be in a leadership position and have personal agendas. You just can't do it. You represent everybody, not just your goal and objective. What's best for the city?
Wow.
And I ditto off of Jim. We wouldn't have been at that point. One of the things that when I have time, one of the things that I talk about as far as governance, because we have a strong mayor form of governance in St. Petersburg. That's what the voters said that they wanted. One of the things that I think we have to get back to, though, is defining the appropriate role of the county, the city council versus the mayor. The mayor is not the boss of them.
Right.
And what I mean by that is there has to be a level of respect that they are elected just like you are. And a part of that is relationship building. The mayor makes it clear that he has the unwavering support of Gertis and Deborah Fix Saunders. Very inappropriate. Very inappropriate. At the end of the day, it does not send a good signal to their constituents if you're going to co-sign on everything that the mayor's doing. It's just like with Gabbard. It's going to be interesting during this campaign trail to see how you separate yourself from the mayor when you've co-signed on everything. And I'm excited to see it. I'm sure she has her plan laid out. But I think it's so important to understand the roles, and on something this serious, this big, we would never get before a city council and they have to make a vote against something that's something that has been workshopped. That's something that when we step out into the public, we all on one accord.
Right.
Because we have brought the various perspectives from our constituents. We have gone through a process of consensus building, because nobody's never going to get it. Just because you're the mayor does not mean that it's going to always be your way. And I think that sometimes that kind of intimidation factor happens to the new council people, even so much where they're kind of fearful that they may get thrown off the city council when the mayor doesn't have that authority. They can throw him out. He can't throw them out.
Right.
And so having that level of confidence that you got a very important role. And I think that that's one of the things, one of the first things I would do as mayor, is to really work to build the appropriate responsibility or relationship with the council, so that we're actually doing what the voters intended for us
Right.
to do. When we vote, have our various districts as well as the mayor. And I think that's one of the fundamental pieces of getting to the public trust.
I want to say this, if you all don't mind.
Go ahead.
Maria, you and I talked about this, and you just reiterated some of that conversation we had. The mayor does not know how to build relationships. Do you remember when he summoned Corey Givens to his office and berated Corey as if he was the principal and Corey was a student in his school?
I do.
Oh my God. And when Corey told me that, I said, it couldn't have been me. It couldn't have been me. The mayor has no authority over these council members. But he summoned Corey Givens to his office like Corey was a child. He doesn't know how to build relationships.
And that is critical, what you're saying about, because I've talked to council members, existing council members who can't get a meeting. How you can't run the city without sitting down with those. You don't have to agree, but you have to discuss.
Council members can't get a meeting.
Right.
Wow.
That's coming now.
Well, I know it's coming out here. That's what I've been
No,
talking about.
With the mayor.
With the mayor.
That's what I'm talking
You
about.
have to meet with them regularly.
Oh, my God.
And I wanted to add one point to it. It said, we were a city manager form of government. You remember that? And that you manage the city. It's that simple. You don't get into, politics and special interest and personal agendas. And we know we had the controversy, the Kurt Singer controversy that changed the form of government. We need to get back to managing the city. That's all I wanted to say. Get back to managing the city, the streets for everybody, the sewage system for everybody, the water system for public safety for everybody. Not we're going to do personal agendas.
Right.
That's not
The whole city.
any government should be.
All right. Either of you?
No, I
Yeah.
what I'm hearing, the whole,
Hey, Russ?
whole city.
I go back to what you said too, but it seems to me in this country, everybody is running on a personal agenda. The federal government,
Right.
the state government, the local government, everybody doing personal agendas here. So what the hell going on?
Yeah. Well, all I can tell you,
Don't wake up.
That's right.
I can tell you have two people here today that aren't running on a personal agenda. You have two
Right.
people that love St. Pete and want to make it a great
Right.
place.
But I like what you said. I have to bring this word in. The word you use, that tangible thing. I love that. Because that's what it got to be. People got to be able to
Touch it.
touch it.
Right.
And that's what they can do. Because when I look at all of this, you got the mayor, you got the city council, you got the community, now you got the developer. You see.
The developers are the only ones touching. The one that's-
And you brought up an excellent point. I'm sorry, real quick, an excellent point. When you put in the infrastructure and turn that into city blocks, you appreciate the value of that tremendously.
Exactly.
And right now, we're gonna sell it as a piece of land
I know it.
that
Parcel it out, like what you
cut the
said.
city out of so much revenue,
Mhm.
so much potential.
Right.
So I'm sorry, I don't want to take any more time.
Okay, I think I got time for one more question, if you don't mind. I want to ask you about, because I did hear somebody say something about the Woodson Museum. I read in the patch somewhere, someone said that the Woodson Museum should be the focal point of that development. Do either one of you agree with that?
No. Two of the proposals focused on the Woodson and on one of the, I think it was the Bird that had a second museum. Again, that is not something that has come from the people. That is a part of the mayor's promise to tear it up to Scott.
That's
And this is the problem that we have with this administration. It's these personal relationships that are guiding what happens in the city. You can't run a city of 200,000+.
And
people
check
that way.
this out. The Woodson Museum presently is 4,000 square feet. And they're talking about building a Woodson with over 50,000 square feet. Does that make sense?
Who's going there?
No.
And I think if you're considering, if you go through this planning and somebody says, well, we need that. Okay, it's not a focal point. It could be an anchor, a community anchor, because you're going to have multiple anchors to this development. you would think. It could be an anchor, but not a focal point.
Yeah, I just want to be clear because I was the director of Post 6 when the concept of an African American museum was born by the residents of Jordan Park. I am in sole support of an African American museum. Trust me.
All right, we're gonna have to leave it at that point. You support the museum, but not a focal
Not as a
point
focal
of the
point.
development.
Exactly.
So I want to thank our two guests, Maria Scruggs, Jim Large, candidates for Mayor St. Petersburg. I want to thank my co-hosts for a job well done, as always. I want to thank you, the listening audience, for tuning in to the Rate Tampa podcast and ask that you continue doing so each and every Tuesday, 5:30 p.m., 99.1 FM, The Bird. And I want to ask, please, 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 call the supervisor of elections office and request your mail-in ballots. Extremely important. With all that being said, good evening.